You, my friend, have been through the ringer. You've gone through a ton. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey into, poor health, metabolic health issues? When did that start for you? When did you start to experience some of the things that you've been through?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I never looked at myself as being unhealthy. Um, Physically, I guess, I say that I was blissfully unaware of how I looked. I just didn't pay attention to it. I knew that I was unhappy. I knew that life was awful for me, even though it seemed like on the outside everything should have been grand. But I was really just blissfully unaware. So in my I guess really I can go back to being in high school. In high school, I wasn't happy. Couldn't tell. In fact, the other interviews I've been on that my mom has heard, she's like, "You were happy in high school." I was like, "No, I was miserable in high school." But I
Wow.
was active. I was in all of the clubs. I lettered in football. So I was the manager of the football team, and I was always out and about and doing stuff, but I always felt like the outcast. I always felt like I was working really hard to try to fit in, and I just never felt like I did fit in. And I was miserable. All of my friends just kind of dropped me one day, and I was alone. And then that's when I first started thinking, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And I was really I'm just very, very negative towards myself. That never really went away. I never, but I was very quiet about it. I'm in high school. I'm trying to live my high school life, and I was very quiet about it. I go off to college. Those feelings never really went away, but I still, I was still. I guess I had the energy. I was young. I had the energy to kind of hide that misery that I was feeling inside. So I'm going chronologically, which is unusual. I don't usually go chronologically when I tell my
This is
story.
great.
But then after there was like little things that would happen. Like I would get into arguments with people and I couldn't speak, so I would have to write things down, and so that person would be talking to me and I would be writing. And I realized that that's kind of odd, but I never really like thought about it too hard. It's just I couldn't form words out of my mouth, so I could think and I could write, so I would do that. When Matt and I first met and we had an apartment, I told him, and so we were looking for apartments. So you have to understand, when things get overwhelming, I just shut down. So if I just shut down, you just make all the decisions. I'll be okay. We'll get over it. So just these little things that would happen that, like, I knew that I did them and they were my normal, but I didn't realize it was kind of off. And until I had my son. So he's 18. So when I had my son, things were really, we decided that I should leave my job. And I mean, it was a mutual decision. We decided I should leave my job. And so then I was home in the house with a baby by myself. And that's when, you're like alone with your thoughts all the time. And these things just kept happening where, like, I couldn't speak, or I'd get really frustrated and angry. And I was writing all over. If I could find something to write on, I was writing, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this anymore." And I was writing it. So I guess he found it one day. I don't know. We ended up getting in an argument, one where I'm writing and he's talking, and he realizes that something is wrong. So he takes me to the hospital, which is where I get diagnosed with postpartum depression. And that's just, you have postpartum depression. Here's some pills. So that's how that was treated. And I remained on those pills because I realized, okay, well, all of the stuff that was going on, I was probably depressed the whole time. So even after a few years, I remained on those pills. We moved, at the time we lived in Maryland, we moved to Pennsylvania. I find out I'm pregnant again. So I'm like, I better take myself off these pills. I'm just dating a baby. So we get off the pills, and eventually I just go back to the doctor and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So Matt travels for work. He would leave on a Sunday night. he would return home on Saturday morning. I've got a toddler and I'm in an unfamiliar place because we've moved to Pennsylvania now. I don't know where anything is, and I'm pregnant, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I went back on medication because that's all I knew. That's all I knew how to do. It's like the way we treat depression is we take pills.
Yeah.
So I remained on those. We didn't stay in Pennsylvania long. We ended up moving to South Carolina. When we did that, the pills just got phased out. I didn't have a doctor. I didn't have anything. So that just got phased out. That's when I started trying to just power through again. I wasn't really trying to let on that I was struggling. So I probably went another 5-6 years before I started paying attention to myself. And I'm an avid reader. So I would go to the libraries and I was getting books about depression. And then I was getting books about bipolar disorder. And I was just reading, I was just taking in all this information. And I was like, all of this sounds like me. So I told my husband, I was like, we need to go to the doctor. I need to do something about this. Cause I just didn't want to be alive. I didn't care about anything. I didn't want, and weird stuff. Like I would have these episodes where, well, we had financial problems. So, they talk about you want to go off and like just go shopping or go gambling or something like that. I had the self-restraint to know that if I went off on some sort of major shopping spree or whatever to try to make myself feel better, I would end up still feeling bad because it would hurt the family financially. So I had all of this restraint and all of this battle going on. And it would come out in weird ways. Like I would be shooting off emails to people that were like 3 pages long that were, this is this scenario and we could handle it this way. This is this scenario, we can handle it this way, this one, and just over and over and over, just all these things. And it was obviously overwhelming to the other person, but I couldn't do another thing until I got it all out and I had to tell somebody. So it was these long emails, and people don't want emails. Nobody wants an email from me anymore. So I started to recognize that this is probably not right, not normal. So I go to see my doctor. He immediately puts me on medication. So I'm taking meds. It takes months where we were in South Carolina to see a psychiatrist because there's just not very many of them. So it took months. I finally see them. She keeps me on the medicine. She adds another medicine. And this is how it was for several years. It was just medication, and the psychiatrists, they didn't stay in the area. So I would have to go see a new one. And every time I'd go in, they changed what I was taking, and it was just never consistent. And I still never felt right. I felt like I was drugged. I spent my children's formative years basically just like propped up in a corner, and just kind of watching everything go by. I would be asleep. I'd have to set alarms in the morning to wake up to get the kids ready for school. And I would go home. My first thought when I wake up is I need to go back to sleep. So I would go home and set an alarm so that I could wake up, so that I could get them out of bed. So that I could get them from the school bus. And then we would flow through getting work done, which was never easy. Like homework and stuff was always screaming. In fact, it was so bad that we'd wake up in the morning and I'd get the kids in the car. I would literally just yell at them and just scream at them from the moment we left the house till they walked out. And then of course I felt horrible because how do you set up your kid for the day when you're screaming at them on the way to school, and then they get to come home and have that again until they go to bed. And then I went to bed. So that was life, and that was how it was. Even when I was medicated, the anger part it's not subdued. The anger part was still there. I slept all day. That's the only way I could control it, if I was asleep. So that's basically all of that. All of what I was going through was very much mental stuff. And I thought for the entirety of my life, I would have to be medicated. That's when I turned 40. When I turned 40, I went to the doctor. Yeah, sorry. I cry. So when I go to the doctor when I turn 40, and they do all the normal 40-year-old blood work, and he's like, I'm a little concerned about your cholesterol levels, and I want to put you on a statin. And I knew, because Matt had listened to Vinny on his podcast, that statins might not be the right choice, but I didn't know enough about it. But I did know that a lot of people who had followed him didn't have to be on statins because they changed and ate the way he was telling people to eat. So I asked my doctor if I could have 6 months to change my diet, and he said yes. And so that's what I did. So the only reason why I changed my diet was to try to not get put on a statin. And that led me down this whole other road that I've ended up going down the past almost six years now. And that was after that 6 month appointment. The doctor said, hey, your blood work's looking great. Keep doing what you're doing. So I did. In that first year, this was 2017, in that first year, my husband got laid off from his job. He looked and looked and looked and couldn't find anything in South Carolina. He's originally from Texas. I said, let's go to Texas. I'm sure you find work there. So he did. And this was quite a process. He moved away 3 months before we moved away. School was still going on. The kids were finishing school. I was in charge of getting them to all of their events and doing all the things, plus the emotions of this. They know they're moving. They know this is their goodbye. Packing up a house, cleaning a house, having a house ready to show, all of this stuff. Moving is stressful, and it's me and the children, and he's gone. In July, we ended up moving to Texas. So all of us were back together again. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment for a year, where it's 4 adults and a dog in this 2-bedroom apartment. The 2 kids were forced to share a room. They had no choice. They knew it was just part of this transition process. They were big major troopers. But the thing is, I realized I did it. Like, I did all those things. Like, I didn't, my natural tendency would just be to curl up in a ball and ignore all of it and just pretend it wasn't happening, or then just be angry about the whole situation. But I didn't. I found joy in knowing that we were going on an adventure, like this great new adventure. I could see this future for the kids where we had a lot more opportunity being where we are in Texas. And I'm really sorry. This is emotions and my cold coming out all at once. I just realized this difference. So that's when I said, you know what? I think I'm feeling better. I don't need to be on this medication anymore, or I want to try to not be on this medication anymore. I want to see if I can challenge myself to be well enough without medication, because I feel like I can. I finally have this desire and feel like I can do it. And that's where I ended up. I ended up going to talking to my husband, letting him know what I wanted to do, talking to my children, letting them know what I wanted to do, going to a doctor, and she agreed to wean me off the medications. So I was on an antipsychotic and an antidepressant at the time, and we weaned off of both of them, and I've never gone back on. It's a lot.
It's a lot, and it's so amazing. I don't know if you heard my voice break a few times, even in the introduction. Like, I've been on the edge of tears this whole time too. I'm keeping it together for now. It's really, it's a lot. I only know this iteration of Robyn, the bubbly, sweet, kind, amazing Robyn. And so to even try to imagine you in a different iteration, it's kind of hard to hear. It's frankly kind of heartbreaking. Your husband, I met your husband, Matt. He is a sweetheart. How was he able to hold it together through all of this?
I honestly, we definitely had our ups and downs while I was at my most severely ill. There was definitely a time where we thought we were going to separate. There was definitely a time where we were in separate rooms. It was not easy, but I guess somehow he just held hope, and I held hope. I know that one of my biggest things that I'm still working on is using the phone. I don't use the phone. So even if I wanted to try to get out, I had tried to like call a lawyer one time. Was like, I don't have any money and I want to get out of this marriage. And then they're like, we can't help you. And just like collapsing on the floor, just that was it. Like I had nothing left. I was at my bottom. So it was like, we need to work on this. That was really the only way out, was to continue to work on it. And we did. And he's an amazing, I call him he's my rock. He really is. He has always been honest as far as like, if I was going through something, he could say like, look, it looks like something's off. Like, that's why when I decided to get off the medicine, that he was so much part of that process. I needed him to honestly tell me that you're seeing symptomatic. We might need to go back on, or whatever. And he's never had to say that until I did the experiment, which I can talk about if you want to. But he's always just been willing to tell me these things, and that's really what's made this strong and made it possible, was to have support.